Radio Raheem here with Keith One-Time Thurman. You know, you said that this is a pick'em fight, or at least you've admitted that other people think that way. You've also said you do everything better than Danny Garcia. In your estimation, is this as difficult a fight for you as people have estimated?
At the end of the day, it's a very common question, you know, especially when you come up in the ladder. A lot of people ask, is this going to be the toughest fight of your career? Is Danny Garcia the toughest opponent to date? And I always tell them, ask me the question after the fight. You know, I know that on paper, as we step up, it looks like this guy should be a real challenger. This guy should be a real challenger, right? Sean Porter was that real challenger. I knew he was going to try to bring it, but at the end of the day, he really did bring it. The champion in me came out, the champion in me prevailed. But Sean Porter does hold the recognition of being practically the toughest fight of my career, and the main reason is because it was the closest margin. I don't believe anybody else has taken 5 rounds, has bested me 5 rounds, and had it so that I produced 7 rounds, which was what I needed to produce for victory. We got that victory on all 3 judges' scorecards, but on all 3 judges' scorecards, they gave him 5 rounds. Normally, in any 12-round decision fight that I have won by a larger margin. So with that, and how intense and how much determination Sean brought into that ring that night, you guys know that it was Showtime PBC's Fight of the Year, and there was a reason for that. We both showed why we are elite fighters in the welterweight division today.
It sounds to me like you're thinking that Porter may have been a tougher fight than Danny will be. Let me put your analysis hat on. You sat ringside and called fights. You're undisputed, undefeated. Not many people, I don't know, that would argue that you've won all your fights. Danny Garcia, on the other hand, doesn't really enjoy that privilege. As an analyst, do you think Danny Garcia is an undefeated fighter?
Yes, okay? Because there's a little problem when you analyze some of the fights that he won with close margins, right? The problem is that Danny Garcia is a champion, right? When he fought Herrera, you just expect a little bit more from a champion. But what you need to understand is how boxing is truly scored, and that boxing is scored on power punches. Herrera's most effective punch was his jab. He made Danny look bad with his jab from the outside. But there were times where after Herrera would do a nice little combination, on the outcome of it, his defense was not on point. Due to his defense not being on point, Danny was landing left hooks and right hands. And Danny, being the more powerful puncher, it looked to the judges that Danny was doing the more damage. Danny was the champion. You really have to beat the champion if you want to get the victory over the champion, especially in a 12-round decision. Herrera looked good against Danny. He might have made Danny look bad, but he did not defeat the champion, Danny Swift Garcia, that night. Lamont Peterson, he started too late. He gave up too many of the earlier rounds. He did not put up any form of a fight against the champion, Garcia. Garcia got too many rounds in the books. By the time that Peterson was putting hands on him, and we know that he hurt his face, and he welted up his face. So in the streets, yo, man, that boy Danny got beat up. He got beat up. But you have to take it round by round by round, and you got to understand that when there is not a knockout, when there is not a TKO, you have to go to the scorecards. And there's a very specific way that these scorecards get tallied up by the end of the fight. And Peterson did not win on the scorecards once again. So in my personal opinion, Danny Swift Garcia is, to this day, an undefeated world champion.
And let me give you on a couple more points. We've talked about the unification of these welterweight titles being significant because of Mayweather's absence, who reigned in boxing for so many years. This can also make this person the ambassador of this sport, the face of the lower weight divisions. How important is it for someone in that position to not just perform in the ring, but outside the ring with character and represent the sport well? Do you think that the person who wins this fight is in that position, and is that an important aspect of being in that position?
You know, I think it's just what comes with the territory. When you stay at the top for so long, when you beat so many champions, ex-world champions, and you just hold your ground, you know, I remember when I was a kid, we used to play this little game called King of the Hill. You know what I mean? And when you're just at the top of the hill for so long, obviously, you know, you get respect, you know? So boxing is, without Mayweather, with Pacquiao looking like he's going to retire soon, they are due for a new face, as you would say, a new ambassador, right? A lot of people believe that Keith One-Time Thurman can hold that position. But for me, I don't worry about the political aspect of this or that. All that I think about is doing my job and being victorious each and every single time that I come into the ring. You know, I love boxing. I know boxing very well. I've studied the game. I've studied the sport. I got a lot to say about boxing. Y'all have opinions. I have opinions. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got questions. I have answers, you know? And I'm outspoken. It's easy to talk boxing for me, like I said, because I love it from my heart with a passion, you know? So I'm ready, you know? I'm ready to be champ. I'm ready to be the people's champ. Whatever comes, I'm going to take it with open arms because this is my career until the day I retire.
I asked that question because you are an outspoken champion, but you speak positively. Just now you were talking about the different ways that boxing influences people in a positive light. We cannot overlook the tirade that happened in the initial press conference. You took that in stride, but the reason I go down this road is because if Danny were to win, that puts Angel on a bigger stage too. Does that concern you in boxing? Is that something that is not good for the sport in that way?
You know, Mike Tyson bit people's ears off, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to eat his children. You know? I mean, like I said, man, a lot of people come from the gutter, you know? And you can't help that, you know? I have my hood that I grew up in, and things would pop off every once in a while, but it's nothing to what goes on in the streets of New York. And knowing that I didn't grow up in New York, knowing that I didn't grow up in Chicago, I always said my hood was the hood where it's all good. You know what I mean? Plus, running laps around the park every day, being in the gym every day, being a fighter, being dedicated to the sport of boxing, I got respect. They used to call me Oscar De La Hoya growing up. Yo, that's Oscar De La Hoya, don't mess with him. You know what I'm saying? So, at the end of the day, man, you know, I can only be the man that I want to be. I can only be the man that I'm able to be. I cannot speak for another man, and I definitely cannot speak for another man's father, right? So, I like to be positive because boxing has been positive for me, you know? And I met this woman at a restaurant. She found out that I'm a fighter. She says, I don't ever watch boxing, but I love every Rocky movie. She said, and I really enjoyed that new one, Creed, that came out, right? And it's just very interesting because the story, you could take any fighter's life story, people that came from nothing and became something. It's very inspirational. So for that purpose and that reason, I love boxing, and I believe that many fighters can be role models for the next generation.
I know you're a man who believes in visualization, that you put your focus and energies on what the outcome you expect and desire. When you close your eyes and see Saturday night at the Barclay, how does it unfold?
I mean, it's gonna start off. We're gonna get that distance. We're gonna get that gauging down, and we're gonna see which man wants to throw the first big blow. What happens when that first big blow enters the ring? And then here comes the second blow. Here comes the third blow. And then we'll find out how many more.
Radio Raheem with Keith, one-time Thurman at Gleason's in Brooklyn. We can't wait to see you at the Barclay Saturday night. Don't miss it. Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia to unify these welterweight titles.